This week's Democratic debate was just the first high-stakes showdown for Hillary Clinton. In 5 days, she'll face far more hostile questions when she testifies before the House Select Committee on Benghazi. The former Secretary of State follows her top personal aide, Huma Abedin, who took questions at a closed-door session of the committee yesterday.
I came here today to be as helpful as I could be to the committee. I wanted to honor the service of those lost and injured in the Benghazi attacks.
Clinton was asked yesterday what she expects from her next face-off with congressional Republicans.
Other committees of the Congress, standing committees with very experienced members and staff, have all looked into this and basically just rejected the conspiracy theories that are still floating out there in some circles. So I really don't know. I will do my best to answer their questions, but I don't really know what their objective is right now.
Yet another House Republican acknowledged this week that the Benghazi committee was formed to target Clinton. On Wednesday, New York Congressman Richard Hanna affirmed remarks Congressman Kevin McCarthy made to that effect last month.
Sometimes the biggest sin you can commit in D.C. is to tell the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and this may not be politically correct, but I think that there was a big part of this investigation that was designed to go after people, and an individual, Hillary Clinton, is like to expect more from a committee that spent millions of dollars and tons of time.
Trey Gowdy, head of the Select Committee, pushed back hard, saying Hanna is not familiar with the work of the committee. But Hanna wasn't the only person to land in Benghazi-related controversy this week. President Obama had this to say about Clinton's personal email server on Sunday.
You think it's not that big a deal?
What I think is that it is important for her to answer these questions to the satisfaction of the American public, and they can make their own judgment. I can tell you that this is not a situation in which America's national security was endangered.
The New York Times reports that those statements angered FBI agents who are still working to determine whether Clinton's email put national secrets at risk. Kellyanne, we are now in this position where a number of Republicans have said that this committee was out there to get Hillary Clinton.
That number is two, but well, neither of who's on the committee. One who will never be speaker now.
It is becoming hard, though, to avoid the politics of this committee and the political intent of
Which is
committee.
A shame. No, actually, all of it being politicized is a shame, meaning if it's cast within the 2016 elections, that's unfortunate. I agree with President Obama here. I assume when the president said to Steve Croft on 60 Minutes, I think it's important for her, meaning Secretary Clinton, to answer these questions. He didn't mean on a debate stage where you know, the acolytes in the audience are whooping and hollering when she says, you know, they're going after me and Bernie Sanders agrees. I believe the president means under oath in front of the committee. That's the proper place for it. And even in the case of Huma Abedin, who went and testified this week before Congress, she said she tried to be helpful. I doubt that they were asking her questions and her just saying, I don't know, I don't know. There are emails that have been made public where she is forwarding emails or discussing briefly Libya and Benghazi-related matters. This has nothing to do with...
Is this a Benghazi committee or an email committee?
Well, they really, in my mind's eye, they should have had separate investigations just because you can't conflate the two. Now, if they're trying to say we in the Benghazi committee have discovered this illegal personal server in somebody's closet in Denver by the Secretary of State, because that's weird, then, and we think there are Benghazi-related emails, that's how this has become part of this investigation. But I'm glad you mentioned about politics. It bothers me tremendously that anybody on either side tries to politicize it, because there are questions that need to be asked that the FBI is investigating. Republicans didn't invent this. And if there's no there, then we'll know that too. But I think Mrs. Clinton will be far less glib and far less angry than she was when she first testified several Januaries ago.
Well, I'm sure it's a serious moment for her, but Huffington Post, our friends over there, have done an interesting observation here about Trey Gowdy. Gowdy has attended fewer than 10 of the committee's 53 interviews, which may not be unusual since he's chairing the committee, but it's interesting what he has attended. He was there For Clinton staff Cheryl Mills, Jake Sullivan, Sid Blumenthal, and Brian Pagliano, who managed the server. He wasn't there for 3 of the 4 diplomatic security agents who survived the attack. He wasn't there for the testimony of the CIA deputy director. Lynn, if Trey Gowdy isn't interested in Benghazi but is interested in the Clinton folks, what does that tell us about this committee?
It erodes his credibility as leader of the committee, that what he wants to do is really find out about Benghazi. And that, as you just said, is at the email committee. Wordy question, lots of meat in it.
Right.
They should put it in a box, deal with it separate. If he wants to be the head of the Benghazi committee, why don't we get Benghazi done? We understand the committee found out about emails, so everybody knows in the country how this started, but it doesn't mean he has to be the one to preside over this investigation. It's, everybody knows it's what the longest running committee now, longer than whatever you name it, okay? So, Richard, the point is, if the Republicans want a credible Benghazi committee, they're hurting themselves by pursuing the email. They could have another committee to do the email.
More
They're
committees.
in control. They could do a Senate hearing. They could do super select.
Jason, did the president make a mistake in saying what he said about the emails? Lots of people have questions about the emails. Why do it? Lots of Democrats do too. But should the president have stayed out of this one?
No, I think it's fine for the president to say this, because let's be candid. This is a sham. Okay, it's a sham. If you want to talk about emails, that's legitimate, because that could be a national security issue, or at least it's extremely irresponsible on the part of the Secretary of State. I mean, I don't care if she was getting scam emails from people trying to collect money, et cetera, but that's entirely different from Benghazi, which at its core is this conspiracy theory that somehow Obama and Hillary Clinton want U.S. soldiers and troops to die. That is the core conspiracy theory behind this, and that, I think, is separate from an FBI investigation as to whether or not our Secretary of State was irresponsible. And I think the president was perfectly reasonable talking about that.
Okay, we do not have enough time to discuss 2 big issues which deserve 2 big committees. Still ahead.